Hi, everybody. It is so great to be seen. I am excited as usual, and we are here with one of our fantastic sponsors for EP Mixer DC, happening Saturday, June 8th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Highline RXR in Arlington, Virginia. Now, you might say, Craig, that's not DC. This is true. However, everybody kind of has an idea of where DC is, and then we just moved it across the river over into Arlington. So anyway, like I said, we have one of our fantastic sponsors here. And one of the guys that was beating me over the head to get a mixer in the DC area, and that is the founder of Critical Security Solutions, or CSS, and that is Allan Ring. Allan, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sponsoring.
Absolutely. I'm excited to finally get you to get work with us and come up to DC and visit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's one of those. It's one of those places. Like I think I talked about it in a couple past interviews, and I know that I've had the conversation probably with you, or just it's one of those. It was a learning curve last year of where we want to go, what we want to do, where do we want to bring it, and obviously the places that make the most sense to do it, just because of the population of protectors and people in the industry or industry adjacent, are in your major markets, right? You're like, in this case, Seattle, which most might not think that, but if you're in industry, that that's a thing. The Bay Area, LA, New York, South Florida. So I don't want to say Miami. I typically say, but South Florida, right? And then of course DC. For all the multitude of reasons. I think I was talking to, I think it was it might have been Brandon or Devin
Yeah.
about about what they have in the DC area, which is like you got tons of Fortune 500s, but then you have the political side, the government side, like all that stuff um, is there, right? And so I say all that to now let you talk and tell us a little bit about CSS, why you started the company or what you saw, or just tell us about it. Tell us about you. Love to hear.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I got into executive protection while I was in the Army. I started down in Miami in South Florida. So I definitely got a good taste there doing residential security and driving, and then a lot of overseas work down in Central South America. And then ultimately got back to DC quite a few years later. I was in charge of the Secretary of Defense Protection Detail there out of Fort Belvoir in the Pentagon. And that's where I started to meet a lot of different teams, a lot of different government agencies there in the DC area, working with the FBI detail, obviously Secret Service guys, and obviously the other military teams that we had there as well. So it's neat to see all the different teams. And once I retired, trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up, I really fell in love with EP. I even got my bachelor's degree in protection management, strategic security and protection management. And that's where I knew I wanted to be. DC, obviously, pretty big market for it. So I started the company, licensed in Virginia. I'm licensed also in DC and Maryland. But yeah, I saw the space. A lot of people coming in and out, meeting with congressional leaders, a lot of functions. And I also saw the reason I really wanted to get the EP mixer there is just the inherent work, shift work, doing residential security, driving details, traveling. A lot of teams, especially in the DC area, they get kind of stovepiped on just their team, what they're doing, what they're focused on. And that's what I saw amongst the different details. It was very hard you didn't really know other people from other teams. They're there, but they're operating in their space, you're operating in your space, and that's kind of all you got.
Yeah.
But once I had to come up with a solution for training. Everybody's out working, everybody's traveling, so you don't get a lot of guys at one time to train. If I can
Sure.
get 10 guys out of a 96-man detail to come to training one day, like that was a lot.
Sure, it's a win.
So we networked. I ended up networking with the FBI and the AG's detail because they can only get a couple guys. So we'd go to Quantico to the FBI Academy, and we'd get 15 to 20 guys between the two of us and be able to do actual training. Driver's training is hard to find tracks. So I partnered with Fairfax County PD. started using their track, started using their SWAT team for Op 4, using their shoot houses. And so I was starting to get, networking with these other teams, and people realize, oh man, there are other teams out there, and we can help each other out.
Sure.
So getting the EP mixer, to DC, I think is going to be huge. I've been, messaging everybody I know in the interagency that's in the space to come together and just be able to help each other out. So that's why I really started the company, was to try to work with other teams, make strategic partnerships, and see how we could help each other out.
Yeah. Well, good on you for that. And now you said teams, and you're many different teams, and were they mostly, I mean, well, you talked about government stuff, but were you running into civilian teams that while you were there, or I don't necessarily, I guess, yeah, civilian teams, whether they were covering a civilian that was coming in,
Yep.
business, obviously, business folks have plenty of interest, in some size in DC and what goes on there. So was it mainly? I assume it was mainly government, but were you running into like civilian teams and things like that, and able to help them, or tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we'd run into like different conferences, and obviously the
Sure.
principals are having meetings with industry leaders.
Hmm.
Uh, it's just that relationship between the DoD and corporate sponsors, and people that are developing tools and assets. Um,
Sure.
so yeah, we'd work with them. We definitely try to help them out getting into some of the government facilities that they might not normally have access to.
Right.
So we'd help with that side of it. And then, eventually I started meeting guys or running into guys that I had served with previously. Like JJ Murillo, was on Capital One, before he moved over to TikTok. Meeting guys, from Northrop Grumman and those other details. And then really I started to learn on more the civilian side right as I retired, is when I came to the EP, the Close Protection Conference,
Hmm.
IPSB in Vegas a couple years ago. And that's where I really started kind of piecing the puzzle together.
Yeah, that's cool. And I like, often we talk a lot, and I think I was talking about it with Devin on his spotlight, was that you know we talk a lot about coming into the industry and how important it is to network there with anybody that you can, right, anybody that's willing to have the conversation with you, and targeting the people that are in the position that you want, whether that, in whatever capacity that is, even if you're not going to start where they are. um you know how do I get there, what do I need to do, what schools, what uh what is it, personality traits, and on, right, things like that it was like coming into the industry. But when you're in the industry, and you said it's like we were helping other people, it's like when a team that can help get you into whatever government building you want to get into, or at least can offer some sort of guidance or something like that. Like that's big, especially when you're coming into the city for the first time, or
Yeah.
under that type of duty that you then have. What that can mean for you and your principal that maybe they wouldn't normally get or wouldn't normally have. So that's one of the big parts of the mixer, is especially for a place like DC. I mean, talk about a city that's going to get locked down, or that can get locked down for any reason. That to have an inside track to someone that that can help, or that can be that can offer guidance or some sort of wisdom into what you're about to deal with, can be invaluable. So that's that's cool. I like that you talked about that, because a lot of times you spend it, for those coming at the beginning of it. So with all that said, as this year progresses, I know there's some personal things that are coming up in your life. If you can talk about or not, that's fine. But professionally, or just in the next, 12 to 18 months, what's happening in your world that you're excited about coming down the pike?
Yeah, one of the big focuses, obviously, for this mixer is to continue to meet protectors there in the DC area that are doing, the part-time work, and build that, group that I can count on, that are well trained and know what they're doing, and looking for work. Um, as I grow and like build partnerships with other companies, as their clients fly into DC, being wanting to be one of the go-to companies to provide that service. And then also one of the big things, like you had mentioned in my life, moving back home to New Hampshire now that I've retired from the military, keeping the company registered there in the Northern Virginia, DC area, and also expanding to register the company here in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. So that's probably the next 6 month kind of figuring those out and growing that way. Because there's a lot of companies, that this is kind of not a huge market up here, as you can probably figure
I'm
out.
familiar.
But there's still a lot of vacationing and clients coming up to this area, trying to get away. Boston does have quite a few Fortune 500 companies in the area that clients visit. So yeah, expanding the company up here, and then also keeping the company running down there in the Virginia area. So big goal for us in this EP mixer is to meet part-time guys that are looking for work, and kind of build out the team of guys we can call on when needed. And then obviously another big one in the next few weeks, getting married. Really excited about that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Going out on the honeymoon the end of June, and then really getting back to the grindstone, getting back to the network, and getting back to work in July.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, that's cool. I'm excited for you on that last part, right? But also too, for anybody who's listening that is looking for work, right? If you like, Allan will be there, right? Or and we'll get to your how to find and get in contact with you here in a little bit, right? But like, pay attention to that, because people are looking, and even if he can't use you now, doesn't mean he can't use you down the road. So just be open to that, but make sure networking is a long can be a long process game, and typically it is. There's a whole process that the one of the networking kind of gurus in the world, his name's Ivan Misner. He developed an organization called BNI, or Business Networking International. It's got tens of thousands of chapters across the globe, right? And when you meet somebody, so this guy knows what it takes to network. And there's a process that I talk about in my class that he coined and developed. It's called VCP, and it's visibility, credibility, profitability, or prosperity, or whatever you want to say. But you don't just go from meeting somebody to getting work, or getting referred to, or whatever the case is. You have to get known first, right? They have to get to know you. At that point, you build some credibility, right? And that could be by going to different schools, by getting good references from people. It could be spending the time to get to know that person directly. Often in this work, as we all know, as much as we'd like to say that we don't do it, or that it doesn't happen, it's like sometimes you have to rely on somebody else's word that somebody else is good. Like, hey, listen, plug this guy and he's squared away, or plug this gal and she's squared away. We don't like doing, right? It's not how we want to know, because every time you give a referral, you give away a little piece of your reputation too. And so that's a hard thing to do. So taking the time to get to know somebody is crucial. And while Allan might not be able to use you here or now, doesn't mean that you don't stay in touch in a consistent, not constant basis, but a consistent basis. Checking text, emails. Hey, I got a new cert, and I'm sure he's doing the same. And Allan, tell me, like, you're talking to people probably a lot, even if there's nothing at the end of it, right? No, there's no profitability, but it's not happening now. And even you said, part of the goal for you is to meet more people.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that was a big thing when I decided, this is the route that I want to go once I retired. And I thought to myself, one of the big things, obviously, networking is huge. I learned that early on in my military career. The military police corps is pretty small. You're gonna find, you're gonna run into people all over the world. Yeah. Again, your reputation is gonna follow you. People are gonna say, "Oh, that guy's great," or "That guy's not great." They're right. That's gonna happen. Sure. So be well aware of that. But so knowing how important that was, my first year, starting the business was really, hitting conferences, figuring out who's who in the industry, who I want to work with, who I don't want to work with, if that's the case. And so, hitting the different conferences, and then the EP mixers, like the GSX one, I was able to hit Vegas because I just happened to be out there for work with another company.
That worked out pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that happened, but it lined up. It worked great. I was getting paid by another company to fly out there and be at the mixer, having to be a bonus. So it was great to see everybody and meet some new contacts there in Vegas. Right. and make some more partnerships, and like you said, it's a long game. There's still guys that, that I was stationed in DC with back in 03 to 05 that were on my SWAT team, that had gotten out and are now, higher ups with Capitol Police.
Hmm.
And, you know, you have that connection with them. So I can hit them up. I can get intel if if there's a big event in DC.
Sure.
I was with a client at a big, huge pro-Israel rally that was, could have gotten a lot of sideways. It was only supposed to be 60,000 people, ended up being over 300,000 people.
Ooh,
And I was on the phone with him the entire day. Hey, man, what's going on? What are you hearing?
yeah.
What are you seeing? Um, and like you said, that's just an absolute long game. Him and I haven't seen each other physically in person in well over 10 years, but kept in touch. Hey, how's things? Hey, I'm back in the area. And just keeping that connection warm and utilizing it as best as possible.
And that's the thing, you don't know what anything is going to lead to, right? You don't know. You didn't
Yeah.
know that he was going to end up at the Capitol Police. You didn't know that. You don't know any of that, right? So it's like you go into these things for the relationship. And I'm not saying you have to spend your time building a relationship just to build a relationship. Sure, there needs to be some applicable, outcomes to that, maybe. But also, it's like, well, I don't know. That guy knows somebody that I might not know. So maybe the relationship, and that's how I got in, kind of got in this industry. But my first protection mentor was through a kid that I was sitting beside in a poli sci class in college.
Yeah.
How does that happen, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know, right? So you treat every relationship or the beginning of every relationship like it could mean something, and it should mean something. But anyway, I don't want to be so altruistic about it.
Yeah.
But I am, but I know that not everybody is. So, and I think you probably answered this question a little bit, but yeah, and you have to a point, but specifically, like you decided to sponsor the mixer, you've pushed it. Can you give us anything different than you did before? As specifically for you, but it's like what was your expected outcome, or one of your other goals for having a mixer, or why did you decide to get involved, things like that?
Yeah, I think not just for CSS, but also the one of the main reasons I started the company was, to bridge the gap and help teams, get together, network, and help each other out. So I'm really excited to be able to sponsor the Mixer One. Thank you for the opportunity and help out with, finding Highline. It's a great spot. That's where I did my retirement party. It's
Yeah.
it's an awesome bar. It's a great location. But also, to invite those other teams, like my old DoD team, a bunch of them are going to be coming. Guys that retired out and are now with, some of the bigger other government teams that are there are going to be coming. There's guys from the corporate side, guys that I worked with, on the SecDef detail that are now on the corporate side, either standing up new details or working in developed ones, like Google.
Sure.
They're all coming. And that, so one of the big goals for me was to try to get everybody in the room to see, oh, what these guys have for capabilities, what they can share, what they have, like you said, either access to locations or access to training. There's details that we partnered with for like indoor ranges. The Army didn't have any indoor ranges in the area. We were at Quantico outdoors once a week. So to be able to find, a government detail that's willing to allow us to come, fire at their indoor range was awesome. It was
Yeah.
great to get out of the heat and be able to focus just on what you're training.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big things for me with this EP mixer, having it there in DC, having it in the Northern Virginia area, is to get as many different teams and different personnel in the room to be able to meet, network, and see where it can go from there. I fully understand I'm not going to profit off of a lot of the relationships that are going to develop, but that's why I started the company, was to really kind of bridge these different details, bridge these different teams that are in their little stovepipes operating in their little sector.
Mhm.
And kind of break down those walls and show like, hey, we can work together. We can help each other out. It's not a my team versus your team. You both have a principal to take care of. Maybe we can help each other out to take care of the boss a little bit better.
Mhm. And one of the things that and I think I've probably quoted this a number of times, but one of the terms that Chuck Randolph likes to use is siloing. It's too many people are just like, and you're putting it perfect. It's like they're in their own world, right? And anybody who's not in our world is unsat. They're terrible, and they're soup sandwiches, and on and on, right? All the things that just somebody isn't as squared as way as your team is. But it's like, no, that's not the case, because where do you find other people to join if you're the only ones? So it's, and you can get people trained up, and they always say, hire for, I forget what it is, but not, you can train skill, but hire for essentially for personality, right? And is it the right fit for the group? You can get somebody shooting straight, and you can get somebody to understand halls and walls, and you can get somebody, you can train all that. It's nice if they come in with a little bit of that, but past that, you have to open up. And one of the things that I beat people over the head with, and I don't know if I've ever talked to you about it, but one of the things that I talk about is not so much incessantly, but a lot is and as ridiculous as this is going to sound, it's going to sound way out of context, but smiling when you're meeting somebody new, when you're coming into a room full of strangers, like whether you want to or not, smile, because somebody's going to be, especially in this crowd, somebody's going to be watching you, right? Just because that's what we're looking, we just watch, right?
Yep.
And so even with the environment, this is supposed to be relaxed. This is supposed to be fun. And I can't tell you, I've never had a bad experience at one of these mixers, right? That's the feel of it, right? Is that people are coming in there. It's a bunch of like-minded people that do the same work. Oh, I remember working with that guy. And I remember this, she was on our detail. And so there's a lot of that. Now, this is the first time, and like I was talking to Brandon, he was like, I don't know of any other mixers like this in the area. And he's operated there for years. And so it's great that this gets to be maybe it helps to kind of boost that, and I'll get questions like, when are you coming back? It's like, well, I don't know when we're coming back to DC, but you can do this anyway. Like, it doesn't have to, and obviously that, that's not, that's kind of giving business away a little bit, but still it's like talk, right? Like coordinate, get together and do this you can do this on a regular basis. But anyway, we're coming up on time, and I'm sure you and I don't know how many conversations we've had where we just kept going and going and going and going, which I'll take the blame for that, because that's usually how it happens. But where can people learn more about CSS?
Yeah, so criticalsecurity.solutions.com is the website. We mainly social media is only LinkedIn. It's a pretty small team, for me. So as far as getting into like other social medias, just haven't done it yet. So we do have Critical Security Solutions on LinkedIn that we post different stuff on, what we got going on and what we're doing. And then, just my email address is Allan, Allan. It's a little bit different spelling. It's a Scottish spelling, but at criticalsecurity.solutions.com. And then also LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn's huge in the industry. So you can find me on LinkedIn as well, just at Allan Ring. But one thing I did want to pitch at the end there, Craig, one of your awesome pieces of advice when you're coming to a networking event, and I think Joe LaSource actually just hit on it online as well, is they're there to meet new people. Yes, say hi to the people but one of the biggest pieces of advice that you gave me when we went to GSX this past year in Dallas was if you see somebody at a networking event that's kind of standing around by themselves and you're not talking to somebody, just go introduce yourself. You're both there to network. You're both there to meet new people. If you're not currently talking to somebody, they're not currently talking to somebody, talk to each other. It's just a great way. So just make sure you show up with your business cards and that you're ready to meet some folks.
Roger that. Yeah, I think exactly right. Now, I'd say that you both need somebody to talk to at that point. So go do it. Right. And I don't know how to say, go. Hey, I'm Craig. Nice to meet you. What's your name? Let's not overthink it, folks. You know what I mean? So anyway, well, Allan, listen, I appreciate all the help that you've given, all the encouragement, all the support too, just like on, just anything that we've crossed paths on. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today, and obviously the sponsorship.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this highlight. Really looking forward to, just a couple weeks away.
I'm telling you, a couple weeks to try one. Yeah. So cool. All right, man. Well, listen, thanks again so much. And anybody who is listening and watching, Saturday, June 8th, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., Highline RXR in Arlington, Virginia. We are going to be there. Please, if you haven't registered, head over to epmixer.com, get yourself registered. And if you hear this, and you're like, I'm not sure if I'm going to go. Even if you don't register and it's last minute, please show up. We're going to be there, right? And I'm sure, as any other networking event goes, after it's done, there will probably be an after party EP Mixer. And then after that one, too, probably go until midnight, if I had to guess. So anyway, next Saturday, June 8th. Highline. Be there, be square. That's all I got. Hope you have a great one. And I will talk to you all very soon.